we're going to paint this landscape image. You can find this image on the homepage of our class, our team's homepage. There is an image there saved for you. I'll use it to show you here in this video, but the glare is going to kind of interfere. First, you're going to need to draw this in your watercolor pad with pencil. I've drawn it here with black marker so that it shows up on camera, but in your watercolor pad, the pencil lines are going to be so light that you won't be able to see them here. And the first thing that we are going to paint will be the sky and the river between the canyons. So we're going to prep the watercolor palette first by mixing up some colors that will resemble the sky and the water. And I'm going to create washes in these two sections. In this one, I'm using from the watercolor set that we have, I'm using Prussian Blue, which is here in my palette. And I want it kind of light. This is a really light sky in the picture. We don't have to match these colors exactly, but to test them out, you'll want to grab your old techniques page so that you can do like a little painting and test out to see if it's too light or too dark. Over here I am mixing up the river colored water, and to do that I'm going to start with the same Prussian Blue, and to get it to be that more green color I used the brown from the set. I know that sounds weird, but look what happens when you do it. Some of these colors I just do, I know how to mix them because of experience, and you're going to get better at doing that too. So you can see it turns into a nice greenish sort of blue, and that's what I want. And in addition to that, I want a little bit darker also. So I'm going to use here, I'm going to take some Prussian Blue and put it over here without adding any water to it, so it's much darker. Ooh. If you are still mixing another color, you can pause the video at this point. Add some of the brown to it. There's another Prussian Blue, so now it looks just brown. When the watercolor paint is really wet, it's a lot easier to get the darker colors. I'm going to keep this page handy so I can test out just how dark and light my colors are. So that looks good. It's up, I don't know, I'm just not going to brush here. Alright, starting out with the sky, I'm going to use my flat brush, and I'm going to tilt the paper up a little bit so I can get a gradient wash. Loading up the top stroke and letting that blue drip down and each time connecting the next stroke with where I left off up top. And you can see the blue is kind of like falling down and creating a nice even blue. And down here I want to avoid the mountain, but if I do happen to get any brush stroke overlapping the mountain, it's going to be okay because the mountain range is much darker in color than the sky. So in the picture, I'm noticing that it's lighter down here. So I'm going to lighten that up with some paper towel, which I should have had handy. And I could try to create some cloud images if I want. Clouds closer to the horizon are smaller, so I can do that. And then up toward the top, I can use some bigger areas of the paper towel. And blot, never rub. Press down and then lift away. Now you can pause if you need to catch up, but I'm going to move on. Down here, I'm noticing that the river is lighter up in here and then it gets darker down here. I've drawn the landmass a lot larger than it is in the photograph to take up some more of this negative space. Add some more landmass. And starting with the lighter blue, greenish blue anyway, I'll do the lighter green blue up here and trying to avoid where the land is. I'll continue down. And in the photograph, the landmass was darker, the water is darker closer to the land. So while this is wet, I can add some of the darker green blue that I mixed up here. So it'll bleed right into where I just painted with some lighter green blue. And then I'm switching out the brush for this shape so that I can use it to just go right into those little divots here. The shape of the brush is the same shape as that negative space, so it works really nicely. And in the photograph, it's darker down here and up here. So I can go right into my Prussian blue maybe and mix that into this. I think it's a little bluer than what I mixed. Add some of that darker blue while the paper is still wet. Which will let it bleed nicely and give it more of that watery sort of look while the paper is still wet. Now a note on paper that is too wet: if you continuously paint over super wet paper and you start to notice that the paper is kind of degrading under you and tearing up, you need to stop painting and just let it dry, or it'll just keep tearing up underneath you. So now all of these lines are connecting with land masses. If I continue to paint and I try to paint right next to it, I might get some bleeding. So while I'm waiting for that area to dry, I can drink up some of this paint and then start to mix the lighter colors for the landmass and put this aside. I'm going to stop the video here.